what is going to be the fallout? That's what we're going to be taking a look at.
We're going to suffer. We're really going to suffer if there's another pandemic around the world, because the U.S. will be the last to know. He can't?
He can't, because it's a constitution. He does not have the power.
Even though this is one of the things he wants to do, right?
He can want to do a lot of things. Okay? See, this is the thing, that he's not a king. You have three, no, he's not.
Welcome back to Kenton and Habiba. We are back with another current events discussion. I was going to stay away from politics, but we couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. We had to come back with what's going on, and a lot's going on since Trump has entered as president. And in particular, I wanted us to talk about the executive orders. Yeah, we're only going to pick a few that I wanted to highlight, including the mass deportations. It's a lot.
I watched 8.5 hours of inauguration events today. Let me tell you everything I learned. First off, we're going to do a rapid fire list of the executive orders that we learned about today that Donald Trump will be implementing. He's designating cartels to be listed as foreign terrorist organizations. The people who were involved in J6, they're going to be released. The TikTok extension, he wants to change the definition of birthright citizenship, rebuild the border wall, send more troops to the border, end catch and release, and declare a federal emergency at the border. Only male and female to be federally recognized, colorblind merit-based hiring instead of DEI, end federal censorship for free speech, withdrawing from the World Health Organization, protecting women from radical gender ideologies, which I'm assuming has something to do with sports. He didn't list that for sure. Revoking the Green New Deal, no mandates for electric cars, no more wind farms, national energy emergency, putting astronauts on Mars, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord, and Alaska's energy release. He wants federal employees back in the office, an immediate hiring freeze while they, figure out all the things that are wrong in the federal government, except military and some other couple of areas, a hiring freeze with the IRS, implementing the Department of Government Efficiency Office, otherwise known as DOGE, no tax on tips, defeat inflation, tariffs, address the cost of living crisis with all federal agencies. He also rescinded 78 of Biden's executive orders.
So I'm going to bring up a newspaper headline and then present it to Kenton and see what his thoughts are about the subject. Okay, we're just going to go right into it.
Folks, this is completely off the cuff. Right. So this is not like...
We have not discussed this ahead of time.
As usual.
It is not scripted.
People brings me in, says, hey, I want to talk about something. I'm like, all right.
But he is a lot more equipped to talk about this subject, I think, than I am. I mean, I have an opinion, but I think he can definitely give us a little bit more of an intelligent perspective.
FEMA, you're a doctor. I don't know how more intelligent I can be.
I mean, I'm intelligent, but I'm not a lawyer. Yeah, I didn't go to law school.
But you went to medical school, so it's just depends.
Right, there's some subjects that, All right, anyway.
And you're a beautiful black woman. So
what that got to do with it?
I don't know. I like to throw that in there.
All right, Trump is ending the diversity programs at all federal agencies. According to the memo, cancel any DEIA related, close all agency DEIA offices.
DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that the president has railed against. He signed an executive order over the night that has a real impact there.
It sure does, and it's starting today, Savannah. 5 o'clock Eastern, close of business today. That is when workers in those offices will be told that they are on basically immediate paid leave. Contracts are going to be terminated. Trainings are supposed to end. The social media accounts, the web pages are getting pulled down as well. The White House also wants to know whether there's an attempt to, in their words, use coded language to try to disguise some of these programs. This is something that the president talked about on the campaign trail, and it is a big reversal of a Biden-era push. Keep in mind that conservatives have long been critical of these DEI programs, not just in the federal government, but think about the private sector, too, in those private corporations. The White House press secretary, in a statement overnight, says this is all. You talk about, Savannah, promises made, promises kept. She says that this is part of a pledge by the president to return America to, in her words, a merit-based society where people are hired based on their skills and not the color of their skin, Savannah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
He's the executive branch. That's his prerogative to either to close those offices, just like the prerogative to actually have those offices. I think DEI is an important function, just like at universities or at any businesses and corporations. I think that it is not only that it's good conceptually, but even as a strategic process in regards to developing workforce and so forth. This is part of a reflection of the push against what he calls woke, or this group of people that are talking anti-woke, whatever that means. So they see equity as part of that woke thing, which is not true. The bottom line is that it's also part of, again, cutting costs, reducing the size of the government, and attacking specific areas. And one of them is DI. I think the more serious thing is him rolling back consent decrees and also freezing, like, the Department of Civil Rights and some of their programs. To me, those are also very critical things.
I thought the whole idea wasn't about cost. I thought this was more about his whole spiel about we're going to be a merit-based, country and not, based on, I guess.
You have multiple things going on. Mm-hmm. You have a cost factor, about shrinking, because a lot of things there's an underlying, for example, like him looking at getting rid of FEMA, which has anywhere from a $10 billion to a $30 billion budget. He's looking at those offices, freezing hiring. I mean, there's a lot of that. That's one component. The other thing then is also philosophical, or basically an agenda, like from 2020, his 2025 project plans. That's all falls into that, is to reduce, you want to cover it under merit, right? Oh, we want to be merit-based. But if we look at the history of the United States, in many instances, it is not merit-based. When you have systemic racism, when you had Jim Crow, and when you have redlining, I mean, you can go on and on. And that's history. That's not just speaking from some sort of woke philosophy or perspective, which is not the case. That's just again, ideological narrative that's being put out there. The facts are the facts.
So a couple of weeks ago, I had posted a video highlighting the Workin, or the Walmart Birkin, and someone commented that, oh, we're not supposed to be shopping at Walmart anymore because, they don't support diversity and inclusion and they're canceling their program. Well, as of today, or as of yesterday, so many more other stores are now caving in, including Target. So now I'm wondering, to those people who said we're not supposed to be shopping at Walmart, are we supposed to stop shopping at Target as well? Because it looks like they're all going to start caving in. And
so no Target, no Walmart, no Hobby Lobby, no Home Goods, no TJ Maxx, no Marshalls, no McDonald's, no Fruit of the Loom, no Dairy Queen, no Baskin Robbins, George Foreman Grill. I'm not surprised. This means now we got to keep our black dollars to our black ass selves. As much as we love to shop there, they don't love us.
Following Trump's, I guess, orders.
Well, I don't know about
or
following Trump. I think the argument comes in is that were these programs really vested as something that is of value, or was it really done more as a marketing ploy, kind of like,
right. It was a reaction to the George Floyd.
Yeah, exactly. Was it just more like, exactly, and that they created these programs just to say we have a diversity, equity, inclusion program, but do they really do it? Because again, when you look at who sits at the boards, who are the top executives, that hasn't really changed. There hasn't been more women. There hasn't been more people of color. being reflective and true leadership.
Right.
So there is a valid argument that really, in the end, a lot of this was just more for PR purposes and marketing purposes.
Hey y'all, I am Melissa Butler. I am the founder and CEO of The Lit Bar. The Lit Bar has been in Target since 2017, and we are the largest Black-owned makeup company in Target. So, of course, we were disappointed, just like many of you, when we learned that they were rolling back their DEI initiatives. But I will say, even though I'm disappointed, I'm not that surprised. I always thought that the 2020 commitments were a farce. Like, anything that is forced is going to be a farce. And I think part of it is because Trump is emboldening companies to reverse commitments that they never wanted to do in the first place. And that is not just true for Target. I think it's true for a lot of companies.
Right.
So when someone comes along like Trump, and from an ideological perspective, they then argue, say, like, see, this stuff is no good, so there's no value in diversity, equity, inclusion, therefore we need to get rid of it. The thing, too, is almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you have organizations that never really supported it to begin with,
It was just a big fake show.
it's no different than an organization that you know, like in healthcare, that sits there and say, like, hey, we want to take care of our demographic, our population, but have no Black doctors. Right? It's like, but you say, like, oh, but we believe in that, but they don't recruit, they don't sit there support. And that's the kind of thing. It's sort of like, you know, you got to put your money where your mouth is, right? And so a lot of it is just a PR. So of course then it's going to fail. Of course then the diversity, equity, inclusion programs are not that effective. They're not supported. Does that mean all DEI programs are not? Absolutely not. I think there is value in that, because one of the critical things is that in order to have a workforce, particularly a global workforce, is to be able to work with all different kinds of people.
Right.
And you have to create a space where people can be as authentic as they can be, and it's difficult in a workspace.
All right, so do you think now that all of these companies and stores like Target and Walmart are sort of caving in and getting rid of these DEIA
All that
programs?
to me, all that signals to me was that they were never vested into these programs to begin with.
Right.
That's all it is. It's so different than when you have companies that are, say, put money into environmental programs, yet at the same time they're dumping waste into the soils and they're poisoning the water. But they have foundations that give money to environmental, because part of their PR is that, well, we're responsible partners and stuff. But then they're putting chemicals into the water systems. I mean, that's all part of it. So it's really just, again, it's just showing the hypocrisy in the process.
A big one is Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship.
Next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one?
The specific order here on birthright citizenship. Until now, that was understood as a right under the 14th Amendment. If you were born here in the U.S., no matter the status of your parents, you're an American citizen.
Yes, and it's something that I never imagined was an issue. Federal law also enshrines the same language.
And give us a brief for those who don't understand, what does that mean? I know most people watching know what that means, but for anyone out there.
All right, I'll be brief.
Brief.
Yeah, because you always say I gotta be, because you get me, I get into this professorial mood.
Right, brief.
All right, so really brief. All right, so birthright citizenship. All right, 14th Amendment, U.S. Constitution, post-Civil War, passed in 1868. In the 14th Amendment, which is also where you have the due process clause, you have what is called a citizenship clause, all right? And in it is basically that any persons that are born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state where they reside. So that's the citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment that was passed in 1868, okay?
Someone born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And that's the magic phrase that people on the right seize upon to say that there is no such thing as birthright citizenship, because they argue that that means that someone who has a child here must also be subject to the jurisdiction. And that means a citizen of the United States or a lawful permanent resident, not somebody who is subject to or a citizen of another country. That's the argument. It's never been specifically tested, although the Supreme Court has come close in a number of cases, most of which go back 100 or more years.
In law, you have what's called and, that's what's called conjunctive. You have two elements that are joined together. That mean being born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning subject to the laws of the United States. So in 1898, the first Supreme Court case 30 years after the passing of this challenged that very act in United States versus Wong Kim Ark. And what it was that you had a Chinese young man who was 21. His parents were lawfully in the United States, but in California. And during that time, they had basically anti-Chinese, anti-Asian laws that did not allow Asians to be citizens. Okay? So, but they were allowed to live in the United States. They gave birth to their son. They went back to China. He went to visit them, okay? Then he came back to the United States, and he was not allowed to come back into the country because they said he was not a citizen and he was of Chinese descent. He sued because he lived his whole life here. Okay, he just went to visit his aging parents because they went back. They lived here 20 years, so it wasn't like 5 years stay. 2 decades. They went back. He stayed here,
But they weren't citizens.
but they were lawful here. They worked here, okay, because they weren't allowed to be citizens
Sure.
because of that. So it's like by law they weren't allowed. He came back. So again, he was born, and so it was after the citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment was passed. He was born after. So based on that, he sued. It went to the Supreme Court, and this is where the Supreme Court made that decision, a 6-2 decision, so it's a majority, that basically under the concept was called jus soli, or means rights of the soil, that because of his birth here, okay, he is a citizen, because he is subject to the laws of the United States. He operated under that, therefore it gave him the right. Because again, the concept under that was that to give citizenship to all the children of slaves and all those that came over here in the United States, also not just slaves, but also those that were indentured servants, that have traveled here, but they resided here, they became citizens as well. The second part of that clause, where it says subject to the jurisdiction thereof, was made to exclude military personnel from foreign countries, diplomats, and also indigenous tribes that fell under treaties as separate nations. Okay, so those are the specifics behind it. What Trump is trying to do is that he can't get rid of birthright citizenship to begin with. So that's just
He can't?
He can't, because it's a constitution. He does not have the power.
Even though this is one of the things he wants to do, right?
He can want to do a lot of things. Okay, see, this is the thing, that he's not a king. You have no, he's not. He's not, unless this country completely collapses and somehow he overthrows and takes over everything. It's not. So the thing is this: is that he's just going to push the boundaries. And the thing is, you just can't get rid of it. What he's going to try to do, this is just my interpretation, it's my opinion.
Okay.
This is what I think that it is trying to do, is that under that landmark decision in 1898 under the United States versus what I just talked about, Wong Kim Ark, because the parents though that were here, is that his parents were lawfully in the United States, so they weren't illegal. They just couldn't be citizens, but they were still allowed to be in the United States. So they were lawful.
Right.
So my suspicion is that based on reading, that's why reading the executive order, what he's trying to do is try and narrow the interpretation of the birthright citizenship so that it's not as expansive, that as long as you're lawfully in the United States, then, well, I think actually he's trying to get rid of that too. But so basically, he's just saying if you're not a citizen, then, bottom line is that he's going to have a lot of trouble. That's why there's an injunction right now. because it's unconstitutional.
Right. What do you think about the mass deportations that are happening? He has authorized ICE not only to go to schools, churches, extracting these people.
Look, it's going to.
What do you think?
Well, again, this is kind of like the same. His approach right now is it's like a sledgehammer.
It's like demonstrative. I feel like a lot of it is just to show Americans, look, I'm doing it. Look, I can.
Yeah.
What percentage of your workers are not U.S. born?
Probably half.
About half?
Yeah.
How many hours does this go on?
It's 24 hours a day. You know, we could milk 8 hours a day, but it wouldn't be feasible or profitable for us to produce milk.
So you need workers like this year-round?
Yes, yes.
Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota, her farm is just a few miles away. This farmer who voted for her, who voted for Trump, who still supports them, doesn't believe that they would round up immigrants and ask them for their immigration status, because it's an open secret that farms in this state are held up by undocumented workers. Are you worried, like some of your other farmers, that if there were a mass roundup of undocumented migrants, that you might lose workers? You might not have enough workers.
Well, the question I asked, how are they going to do that? Within 2 days, we will not have food. There will not be food anywhere. 2 days? Yes. That's why I predict nobody will be filling the shelves, nobody will be producing food. If we once have to shut down and be gone, it's never coming back.
Does Governor Noem understand that?
I would think so.
You have a lot of faith that they're not going to do what they're saying.
That's pretty much what I'm thinking. So we have to trust in our officials that are put in place.
You know, we're doing it.
Of course. But that, I mean, there's that just demonstrative side, but the other part of it is it's like a sledgehammer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like, I'm telling you, what's going to happen is that you're going to have people that have lawful status are going to get caught up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, because it's like when you start doing these large sweeps and stuff, mistakes are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right now it's targeted, and they're
Targeted
getting
to criminals,
and
right.
stuff like that,
which
is
I
fine.
have no problem with.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, just to give it to Trump.
But see,
I don't have a problem with the criminals, but yeah, it's a little slippery because we don't know.
I am at the airport and we're about to start boarding pretty soon, and I'm still tripping out that I'm about to go back to Mexico.
Exactly, because as it expands, what he's trying to do is try and remove the concept of sanctuary, right?
Right.
So
like even New York was a sanctuary
right.
state, and now you know the governor
right.
there,
he's trying.
or mayor
but the thing is,
there
a church. See, this is the thing: is that a church, if there is no sanctuary, then what is the point of a church? It's just a spiritual sanctuary. But again, this is where Christ said, "Give me a hungry and poor."
If a criminal is sitting, you know, a murderer or a rapist or whatever is hiding out in a church, you don't think it's appropriate to be extracted from the church?
Here you're making a big difference here. Is that here you're talking about murder, rapists, and
well,
stuff
those
like
are the people apparently that he's taking out,
but
right?
He's also taking. He's going to take out also someone that's not documented. See again, see that conflation. It's like you start to throw all this stuff in there, and yes, you can still have a church that sits there, and so they may take that person in once they realize it. Again, if the police have authority or warrant or whatever, yeah, the church is going to behoove to go ahead and turn that over. You know?
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here.
No, the thing is, what he's sitting there saying is, it's like, are we talking about not having a war? That they can just go on in?
Right, a lot of these extractions are done without warrants.
If you're talking about, see, this is the thing. If we're talking about rule of law, and this is the other thing, you gotta really start thinking about this, is that if we're talking about, like, he just sit there and talk about, oh, we want to be a merit-based society. What about the rule of law? He just pardoned all these January 6 people. Right. Fine, but mind you, when he was
some of which killed cops.
Killed cops. When he was running, and he said, "Oh no," and even J.D. Vance said, "Oh, we're not going to just pardon everybody. We're just going to pardon those that we felt good." And he pardoned everybody. Yes, he pardoned everybody. So that's the whole point. So it didn't matter if they were if they beat on cops. You saw it on video. So these very people that actually committed assaults on police officers, and then sit there, and then now they walk away free. And then he does now preemptive pardons. So what is you going to see this is that what you'll see is that now you're going to have, again, you're going to start having very racist parades and outcomes. And I'll be surprised, I'm not surprised to see him try to do a preemptive pardon on these people. And these people are going to have this false notion that, oh, because I got a presidential pardon, I can start doing horrible, terrible things.
Yeah, no, I actually did see a video recently with some white supremacists. They were all masked up with white, and cargo pants and backpacks.
You have the Proud Boys. These are white nationalists.
It was another group, and there was a photographer, and it was like, hey, this is what we do. This is what we're gonna do, and no one's gonna stop us.
Yeah, and again, you're gonna see. My suspicion is you're gonna see more of that.
There's a message to Donald Trump. Hey, Trump, you see all these folks behind me, all hard-working Mexican Americans? I know we all look alike to you, but these folks were born and raised here and working hard to make our economy grow. And the migrants that sometimes come alongside and work with these folks, whether it's this industry or the meat packing or any other, they're here because they know how to work. You've never worked a day in your life, and you don't know what it takes to build this country. So you can take your work site raids that you and Tom Holman want to do and go shove them up your ass. Because at the end of the day, our economy is driven by people like this and by migrants and by so many others that simply want to come out here and come into this country and do well for themselves and their families.
Living here on the border, do you support mass deportations?
No, absolutely not.
What should happen with all these migrants?
They need to figure out something, but this is a long time. I've lived up here since kids used to walk across. There was never a problem until Trump came into office. I'll just leave it at that.
So do you think Trump's going to be the man to fix this
No,
situation?
this is going to make everything worse. We're not going to have anybody get the food. I remember 10 years ago, they were looking for workers to pick strawberries. No white people pick strawberries for any price. No price. No price. We're going to be screwed. We're going to be totally screwed. I don't know what's going to happen. We definitely need a redo on it, and all the people that came in this past year that were not from South America, but that had flown in from China and Africa and Turkey and all the other places. I don't know how that all happened, but having a border fence does jack shit. They climb over it and they get hurt. If we need more border patrol, we need money. We need border patrol. Where's he going to come up with all that money for the border patrol that's going to do all this? They're not here right now because we're short. There's just not going to be. We're going to be really screwed over. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I've got 30 acres off the grid and I feel safer that way.
If you fall into any one of these categories, you're not going to get deported. If you are a DACA recipient and have valid work authorization, nobody can deport you. You are legally present in the United States and nobody can deport you. If you're a naturalized citizen, whether it's recent or a long time ago, you're legally here. Nobody can deport you. If you're a student and attending school on a valid F1 visa, you cannot get deported. If you have valid work authorization, and it doesn't matter how you have it, whether it's through adjustment of status, through VAWA, through a U visa, or through asylum, or even a stay of removal, you are legally here and you can't get deported. If you have a green card, you're legally here and you're not going to get deported. Deportation is a process, and it requires a hearing or multiple hearings, which may take years to get through, and a judge order before you can get deported. Even if a judge orders you deported, there is an appeals process, and as long as you file your appeal and it's pending, nobody can deport you. Let's say you or your loved one gets picked up by ICE or CBP. Well, you can't just get deported unless you have an old order of deportation. While, yes, we are in an uncertain time, mass deportation does not mean that the government can just come sweeping in and getting anybody they feel like and sending them out of this country. It doesn't work that way. So stay informed, be prepared by having all your immigration documents updated and have them with you in case you get stopped. But hopefully you won't need them.
What's your thought on Elon Musk? And I'm sure you saw that whole salute that he did on stage when he got excited or happy, or some people are excusing that whole salute he did to say that don't want to talk about that?
Yeah, all I can say is just that it's just all part of this. I think it's just symptoms of the problem.
This is exactly what it looks like. Do not let them gaslight you.
But what you don't understand though is that Elon Musk is autistic, and he was just. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I tried. I could not get that shit out with a straight face though. That is an actual excuse I have heard, is that he was just stimming. No. You're just looking for something to blame for the fact that he did that. And everybody saw it. And even the hosts. Fox News were like, oh, we might have just crossed a line. And real quick, before anybody wants to come at me with this, he was throwing his heart out to the crowd. Then he's obviously never thrown a damn thing in his life, because that hand was awfully straight for a throwing motion.
To everyone defending Elon and what he did, I want you to do it. Do it. Post yourself on here doing it. Do it when you guys greet each other in public. Come on, have it be your thing. Own the libs, right? Prove to us that it wasn't what we thought it was. Do it.
People made the excuse that because he's autistic. Some people said that was because he was just excited. Some people said it was because he was putting his hand on his heart, to say my heart is with you. Like, there were a lot of different reasons given. Again, to describe, all I know is that... Did it make you uncomfortable when you saw that scene?
No, I just look at it and go like, what is this guy doing?
I don't know. It made me uncomfortable. My first thought was, ooh, this don't look right.
Well, it doesn't look right. But again, it's like trying to ascribe something. All I know is just that it doesn't look right. And I think just some of the things that he says and does, like him supporting the far right party in Germany, it just makes you raise some eyebrows. It's kind of,
his background. I actually found an interesting video with his background, which was very interesting. Like, I didn't realize his family was originally from Canada. From Canada originally. And then many years ago, his grandfather moved them to South Africa right before or right during, apartheid, and profited from that whole process.
Yeah. Well, I find that when he came to the United States, that at a certain point he didn't have legal status either. You find, this is the thing. It's just like, again, you find that it's all, so these individuals, they all call double standards and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's just, all I know is that, again, we'll see how this plays out with the Department of Governmental Efficiency and the whole bit.
Right.
I mean, right now it's just that, again, he donated a huge amount of money to Trump's campaign.
Well, remember, he bought Twitter, he bought X, which was then Twitter, and reinstated Trump back on X, which is this pretty much how we got where we got.
And then he eliminated and basically the community standards, stuff like that. So then what happened is that now you have a lot of very extremist right-wing racist stuff is exploding on there. You had also, and that's also one of the things that, you know, he said that he's for free speech. I always find it interesting that those that, just like with Zuckerberg, with Meta taking away, so-called guidelines on hate speech, saying that we're now for free speech. And I don't think they really understand the concept of free speech. Yeah, right. Musk is just, but he has so much conflict of interest that we'll see how far it goes, because he's got government contracts, he's got, right. So I want to, it's kind of interesting to see. And again, remember, it was supposed to be Vivek and him running.
Right.
I guess the first act of efficiency is that you can't have two leaders. So
right, you can't have two alpha males.
Well,
I don't know about alpha males, but you can't have two people with such giant egos trying to run stuff, and especially when the second guy is a little too brown.
If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to reignite the economy in this country, vote Trump. If you want to revive national pride in this country, vote Trump. If you want to make America great again, vote Trump.
Little too dark.
With a South African, I don't think
right, that wasn't gonna work. I already knew it wasn't gonna work. Vivek, I don't know, was a little delusional. Delusional.
Musk's background would not have allowed that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that's like key to him. But again,
and you guys know who Vivek is, right?
I don't know. I don't know Elon that
Actually,
well.
I'm calling him Vivek. Vic. I can never say his name. Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, I just call him Vic.
Did your father also take the citizenship test, and is your father a citizen?
He did not, and that's a choice that he has made for familial reasons.
When did your father take the citizenship test? Answer is never. So his father's not a citizen. Nothing illegal is going on, okay? But his father is not a citizen. Let's continue.
But my mother did, and I think that every immigrant who comes to this country in order to become a full voting citizen has to do the same. And I believe in being consistent about my policies where...
So your father is not a citizen of the United States?
He's not.
Okay. And your mother, when did your mom take the citizenship test? Was it before or after you were born?
After I was born.
After you were born. Okay.
At the time of his birth in the United States, his father wasn't a citizen and his mother wasn't a citizen. This means that he was granted American citizenship because he was born here. This is a type of citizenship that he wants to take away.
But you gained citizenship through birthright then.
Well, but you gained citizenship through birthright citizenship in that sense too.
He says, well, to the interviewer, he says, you also gained it through birthright. No, if her parents were citizens at the time of her birth, she gained it through, she has two American citizen parents separate from also being born within the United States geographically, if she was. It's not the same. It actually is different.
Wait, I'm sorry, just to backtrack. So your father is not a citizen, your mother...
They came to this country legally. They were in this country legally. So my view is any kid who's born in this country of parents who are here legally, that's the scope of where birthright citizenship applies.
Now understand that that also is easily defeated. He says, listen, my parents weren't citizens when they were here and I was born and I got citizenship merely because I was born here, but they were here legally. And as long as your parents are here legally, then you should get citizenship. Well, the thing about that is you can be here legally as a tourist. You can be here legally on a student visa and have a kid. You are not a citizen, but at that moment you are here legally. You don't have legal status to stay indefinitely if you're a tourist or on a student visa. You have a kid. That kid is now a citizen. He opposes that, even though here he says as long as the parents are here legally. So what does he really mean? What he means is as long as the parents are here legally, I guess with permanent residency. So now he's slicing and dicing what he actually means and wants. This is Vivek Ramaswamy. Whatever is convenient for me is fine, but now I'm going to take it away from other people.
You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you. because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that.
This is for Vivek Ramaswamy. If you are not Vivek Ramaswamy, please scroll. Token spent. Buddy thought he was going to have an office in the White House. Ann Coulter told you that she would never vote for you. You talk like us, but you do not look like us, okay? This is crazy as hell. And bro, they fired you before they even started. you didn't receive your first paycheck. Nigga was still in training period, dog. That's crazy. We're cooked, but that was the funniest shit that I learned tonight. That man really got fired before it even started. like I don't think I seen him in the crowd, bro. So they had to have let him know. They had to have called him before he even, hey, bro, your ticket not gonna work.
So the next subject I want to talk about is the executive orders involving health-related issues, such as withdrawing from the World Health Organization. He wants the United States to no longer be part of the World Health Organization. And then also another executive order, I believe, is to withdraw from the CDC and FDA, or for those organizations to stop communicating with the public. And I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Horrible ideas. But I mean,
obviously he had a reason behind that.
Yeah,
I'm
that
trying
doesn't make
to
the reason.
understand what the reasoning was.
Again, it's to go into the depths of that individual. Again, and part of it is, again, this is withdrawn from the world. I mean, it's just really part of that. Some of it is because, yes, the World Health Organization has some issues in regards to management. Right. And I think there's some ill feelings in regards, going back to his first administration, where he felt that the World Health Organization was not fair in the way they dealt with China as the originators of the COVID vaccine, COVID virus, and that there should have been more penalties, or there should have been more punitive approaches. I think there's also a fiscal issue where it felt, as he likes to bring up, is that we pay more.
Right, I've heard it was more of a financial thing.
So that's also part of it.
Contributing too much.
We contribute very much. Where it's like, again, going back looking at China, which has 4 times the size of the population, but contributes about the same or even less than us. And so it's like, wait a minute. So why we're comparatively a smaller population, but we're paying more. So that's part of it.
So you agree that?
I don't agree. I didn't say I agreed. I'm just, you asked me what was the opinion.
Right. Well, I'm wondering, so you're saying it is unfair that we contribute more. Like, why can't they just come up with an agreement, or get to a point where we're not withdrawing completely?
That's the whole point. But that's my point. What I was saying earlier is that as you can see with Trump, there's no nuance. There's no like scalpel approach with him. This is like everything's a sledgehammer. It's like, I'm going to break. And to some of his supporters, they think that's like the best way to fix things, and it's like foolishness in a complex world. You don't
where
go around
all intertwined.
You don't go around busting things up to think that it's like, oh well, to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. Well, yeah, but the thing is that, what if you have to put the egg back together again? But what if you broke too many eggs? Can you put the eggs back?
Right. What is the solution?
That's the solution. See, that's it. Okay, you withdraw, but the thing is that, again, it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, the bathwater is dirty. Well, then replace the bathwater, but don't get rid of the baby too. It's that just this big bucket approach. So the thing with the World Health is just like you said. Hey, then put pressure on them to fix it. Then put pressure to say, hey, you need to have us at the leadership table where we need to change these things, or renegotiate. He says he's this great negotiator. Then renegotiate. Sit there and go because again, part of our participation also was through a congressional act. The other thing too, you don't automatically just withdraw. You're supposed to allow time to like a winding down, or where you sit there and go, okay, we're backing out and we need to phase out. And I think the biggest danger what he's doing is stopping funding. So you got valuable cancer treating
research, treatment,
you got diabetes.
vaccines.
See, this is the thing that people are not getting here is that you're not dealing with someone that is sitting there going like, okay, let's really try to, make me selective about these things. Sure, we want to do this with that. It's just like, I'm just going to cut everything off at the leg.
Donald Trump shuts down the FDA, the CDC, and NIH from communicating openly to the public. I'm Dr. Hassan. There's been a lot of medical updates so far in the first 3 days of his administration. Let's get into it. Starting off just 2 days ago, Donald Trump and his administration told the NIH, CDC, and the FDA to pause all communications. This means they cannot send out health alerts, they can't send out guidance, they can't really impact public health in any way. Number two, the administration actually paused all new NIH grants. So basically, academic institutions across the country and academic physicians and academic medical practitioners cannot apply for grants. Number three, he actually rescinded the Biden order for Medicare pricing of certain medications. Now, what are my thoughts on this situation? Starting off with, first and foremost, pausing the communications from the CDC, the FDA, and the NIH, as well as pulling out from the WHO. It's a bit concerning. Why? Because in medicine, just like any other profession, you need to have some sort of central body you can kind of turn to for guidance. Pausing it for a few weeks or a month or a couple months, not a big deal, but shutting it down completely is going to be catastrophic. Number two, when we talk about the NIH grants, this is going to be a big problem for academic institutions. Previously, a lot of these institutions, they get NIH grants for studies and those kind of things, and they can use that money to kind of fund their hospitals. As a physician, I've seen a lot of interesting NIH studies that probably don't need to be funded, but with that being said, the majority of the research that's done is for the betterment of humanity. So a little bit more nuance in the way they select their projects, probably okay. Taking it away completely is going to be catastrophic for academic institutions. That means anybody looking for cutting edge care or anybody who's of the lower economic status looking for academic care, it might be gone in the next 3 to 5 years if they get rid of all the NIH funding. Pulling out from the WHO is a big mistake. WHO kind of represents the entire world. The world's health is kind of the doctor for the whole world. Not having a central body to turn to for the entire world, especially in a time of, global crises, probably a bad idea. Changing the way medications are negotiated and medical pricing, it's a good idea in thought, but the target is kind of wrong. The target should be the pharmacy benefit managers, and pharmacy benefit managers should not be owned by insurance companies. That makes absolutely no sense. So he is doing some positive things with all the AI infrastructure in healthcare, but there are a certain amount of negative things that have caught my eye. What do you guys think? Leave me a comment below. Should we be part of WHO? Should they pause NIH funding? And should we get rid of academic hospitals? I love you guys. I'll see you on the next one.
It's one thing to pause because, you have a transition, so it's a 30-day pause. But to sit there and start just eliminating things and not seeing the after effects, you know what this just sounds like echoes of? How he managed the COVID pandemic. Remember that disaster? He did not manage that well. He started off claiming he wasn't even in a pandemic. And that was the whole thing. It was like somehow like you were going to say something.
I don't know, he just seems to have a problem listening to science.
Well, he just it's not this managed approach. If you're, this is the thing. I don't think sometimes it's this illusion.
I wonder what Fauci must be thinking right now. He must be shaking his head.
But the thing is that, that's the other thing.
He must be horrified.
He also removed protective details on Fauci. He removed protective details on Bolton and on General Miller, on all these other key figures that had opposed him or had difference of opinion of him, and he removed that stuff. So it's just like, so do you see this kind of vindictive pettiness type of approach? And so, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, this is what we're looking at here, and what is going to be the fallout? That's what we're going to be taking a look at.
We're going to suffer. We're really going to suffer if there's another pandemic around the world, because the U.S. will be the last to know if we continue or if we isolate ourselves.
Well, that's the way thing, is how you isolate
plans for us.
Isolate, and then we'll see if he does all the tariffs. See if he does all the tariffs. Well, guess what? Because right now, if you haven't noticed, your egg prices are up and chicken prices are up because you got the avian flu going on right now. You have an avian virus that's causing shortages. So we have that going on. Gas prices have started to go up. So we'll see. And then if he starts running with the tariffs and stuff, I mean, we're going to go. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So the bottom line is that we're going to have a lot more of these talks. because we're just at the very surface of these things.
Right.
And how it affects people.
Right. And what I think many people don't realize is just because he has these executive orders doesn't mean that they're all going to actually happen. Because obviously there is a justice system. It has to go through Congress, right?
Well, it depends. Yeah, again, it depends on what he's trying to do.
Now, let's explain this. Just because the president signs an executive order, does that mean all of the action will be carried out?
Not necessarily, for a few reasons. First of all, as we mentioned, there are going to be a suite of lawsuits about various elements of what he's proposing tonight, whether it's the climate agenda, whether it's the immigration aspects, whether it's some of the government management stuff he's proposing. We mentioned, for example, concerns about DOGE. The other thing is, it may sound like something big, but it may actually not be that big a deal, or maybe rather perfunctory, in that when you come into a new administration, you say, everyone stop what you're doing until we have full control. Well, that happens every 4 or 8 years when a new president comes in anyway. Finally, there are congressional Republicans not pleased with some of what he did today. For example, Alaska's 2 senators, they want to keep the name of the mountain, Diwali, and not switch it back to Mount McKinley, because Alaska natives had said they wanted it changed. And there are others concerned about some of the changes he might try to make unilaterally on like electric vehicle mandates. So we'll see how much of it actually ever gets implemented.
All right. Ed O'Keefe, thanks for all your reporting today.
Right.
Things that are in his purview is, again, governmental functions, executive branches, which he can do a lot. Again, that's Medicare, Medicaid, Department. I mean, if they put Kennedy in, as Secretary of the Department of Health, I mean, I don't know. It can go south very quickly. So right now, that under it, just like with the DEI, and again, that's government. That's not private. He can't. Looking at eliminating FEMA. For all those that are complaining about FEMA, the thing is that, again, this is going back in a time, is that FEMA was created in 1979 under Jimmy Carter. See, so that's interesting. So under Jimmy Carter, because again, prior to that, actually even prior to 1940, it was all left to the states, and it was disaster, because when you had disasters, it was a political fight, because one state didn't want monies to go to another state, right? And so it was like, and then also it was a battle between rich states versus poor states, right? Not all states have the coffers.
Right. And what's interesting is a lot of times, someone else pointed out, a lot of these disasters are happening in red states.
That's right.
It's the red states that actually have usually the least amount of money or funding. So when he takes away FEMA, it's the red states that are going to suffer the most.
Yeah, because like the hurricanes, tornadoes, all that. I mean, yeah, we have fires as in California, but again, here we had Helene. The whole point is that you have states, but we're still United States of America. And it's supposed for us to all work together. And FEMA helps to coordinate this stuff.
Right.
So it's not this patchwork of that. Can it be better? Sure. But again, that's that approach. Can we make things better? Or versus just because if you eliminate it, then the question is that, wait a minute, what's replacing it? And the other thing too is then again, FEMA was created by an act of Congress. Okay, it's not an executive order that created it. It was an act of Congress in 1979. So again, Congress has the power of the purse, not the president. So there's going to be also these battles with the legislative branch, unless they just abdicate their responsibility, which it could be. But I don't think so. I think we have senators because they have the interests of their state.
Right.
And just like you're pointing out, this could be an issue for their state, and this might not be the best idea. So again, this is also part of that approach.
All right, guys. So hopefully this was interesting, and hopefully the clips that I will be inserting or have inserted by the time you see this provide some also different perspective and additional info. I hope you found it interesting. Definitely leave your comments below. What are your thoughts? Thank you so much for watching. Let's start a conversation, and we will see you soon. Bye.